Our resident commentator on the passing scene is award-winning author Harlan Ellison. When we call him award-winning, that's an understatement. Harlan has won more awards for his 58 books, more than 1,100 stories, articles, essays, and columns than any other living fantasist. His film criticism has been appearing for the last 8 years in the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, and like our commentaries here, is called Harlan Ellison's Watching.
Times is tough for writers. You just don't know how it is. In addition to having a steadily more illiterate audience every year, I mean, that is to say, people who don't read books, people who have forgotten the past to the extent that nostalgia becomes what they had for breakfast, we have this thing called political correctness. Now, in the world of science fiction, writers have to pay attention to what's going on around them, because science fiction is the only 100% hopeful fiction. That is to say, inherent in the form is, there will be a tomorrow. If you read a science fiction story, it says, this will happen tomorrow. Now, that's very positive. It's very pragmatic. We'll be here tomorrow. We may be unhappy. We may be all living like maggots, but we'll be here. So that means it's 100% positive. Artistic freedom, thus, becomes something that might be a little troublesome, because we deal in allegory, because we deal in the ideas that are not exactly what they are today, but they seem to be about something that we know today, and yet they're tomorrow's idea. The Jesse Helmses of the world, the Phyllis Schlaflys of the world, the Pat Buchanans of the world, the skinheads of the world find science fiction very, very, very troubling. And they want you to be politically correct. That is to say, you are not allowed to insult anyone. You can't have a character who's an unpleasant woman. You can't have an unpleasant person who has a deformity. Everybody has to be terrific. Let me tell you a story. This truly happened. A few years ago, I got a letter. I get a lot of mail. As a writer of matters fantastic and as a critic of the field, I get a lot of mail. And they're filled with opinions. Everybody has opinions. I have them, you have them. And we are all told from the moment we open our eyes that everyone is entitled to his or her opinion. Well, that's horsepucky, of course. We are not entitled to our opinions. We are entitled to our informed opinions. Without research, without background, without understanding, it's nothing. It's just bibble-babble. It's like a fart in a wind tunnel, folks. So I get opinions. And I get a letter one day from a guy, we'll call him Mr. Johnson. And Mr. Johnson says, "You are always writing stories in which midgets are villains." Now, footnote here. When you get one of these letters, they don't say something rational like, in this story you did it, or that story you did it. It's always, you always did it. So I went back through 1,100 published stories. I found 2 stories with midgets in them. One of them was the hero. So this guy writes me and he says, "I am 3 foot tall, and we don't like being called midgets. We like being called little people." Well, I thought about this letter for a while, this political correctness being a problem, and I really am concerned about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. And finally, I wrote him back a letter, and I said, "Dear Mr. Johnson, I am 5'5". I'm a little person. You're a midget.